Hello and welcome back to Particular Pixels. I'm Xiaoling, and in this video I just wanted to talk about the current state of Monster Hunter World on PC. I've played around 100 hours of the game, most of it single player, but some of it has been co-op multiplayer. I finished the campaign and I'm currently working on my review and my written review for the game. But I thought I would just make this video and talk a little bit about some of the PC issues that are still present in the port. The most prevalent issue for most folks have been the connectivity issues where they've been unable to join games or they're getting disconnected all the time. Capcom did release a patch last week that was supposed to address this issue, but it seems that many people have had more issues, or shall I say different issues, since the patch. Now, instead of being disconnected all the time, people are finding it very difficult to find games via the SOS flare mechanic. Personally, I only got dropped from one group while playing online in my few hours of playing online with the game, which is what you're seeing on the screen now. But the issue I came across most was getting disconnected when loading the game or getting forced into offline mode while playing in the middle of a single player session. Of course, it didn't make any difference because I was playing single player, but I was forced to have to manually load into an online session after that if I wanted to play multiplayer. The bigger issue is the lack of games to join when searching for a quest or searching for SOS flares. And that's surprising to me because there are hundreds of thousands of people playing the game. I think it was 194,000 the last I checked, playing the game. So I would think that there would be more results when doing a search. I suspect that it's going to be region-based. Maybe Capcom narrowed down the regions. The problem is I'm living in Scandinavia, so maybe there aren't that many players. But like other multiplayer games, the game should just begin to expand the radius when it can't find people in your immediate vicinity to play with. The performance in the game is subpar for the way the game looks, so even when you're running on pretty high-end hardware, I'm running on a 6700K with a GTX 1080, I'm still having to drop some things to medium and other things to low at 1080p in order to maintain above 60 most of the time. And even then, there are still instances where the game drops below 60 when there's a lot going on, when you're playing multiplayer, when there's lightning going on, which I'll talk about a little bit later, or when there are a lot of particles happening. I think the game should certainly run better than it does based on the graphical fidelity of this particular title. This is made worse if you're using the latest NVIDIA drivers with the Monster Hunter World profile. Rolling back to older drivers where Monster Hunter World does not have a profile alleviates the issue, or alternatively you can install the latest drivers and delete the Monster World profile from the NVIDIA settings, or go into NVIDIA Inspector and delete the profile from there. Then it fixes the majority of the issues. For example, when going into the Rotten Vale, a lot of people are having their frame rates drop significantly. So this does fix it. So it seems NVIDIA has got some issue going on with their Monster Hunter World profile, which I thought they would have fixed in their new drivers since it was present in the previous drivers, but apparently not. The textures in the game are muddy as well, even on max detail. It seems pretty bugged. It looks worse than the console counterparts. There is, however, a workaround for this. There's a mod that you can install. You do have to uncompress some of the game's files and edit some files. So the mod author suggests that if you're unsure if this mod is going to get you banned, perhaps you should play in offline mode. So this definitely needs to be fixed. The PC textures on Mac should at least match the console counterparts. At the moment, they do not. There are many textures that do not load in correctly. There is also a frame rate stutter when using lightning-based weapons. It's partially fixed for some people with the first patch. For example, in my case, I found that the performance is a little bit better than it was before the patch, but it's certainly not fixed. Before the patch, my FPS would drop to around 40 when hitting the training pillar in the training area, down from 60 when using thunder-based weapons, and now it only drops about 55 when I'm capped at 60. However, there's something strange that I notice is that if I play with the frame rate uncapped, I get around 120 frames in the training area, and if I start hitting the pillar with the lightning-based weapons, it drops down to the 90s when I start attacking the pillar. However, if I cap the frame rate at 60 and I start hitting the pillar, it drops down to 54, which is quite strange considering it stays at 90 when it's uncapped. So I'm not exactly sure why that's happening. The lightning/thunder bug is apparently also affecting the Elder Recess, which is the last area of the game. Since there's lightning in the sky, apparently it's causing the game to stutter every few seconds, which is a little bit annoying. It's not game breaking, but it is noticeable when you go into the last area since you haven't had it in any of the other areas. So this, of course, is something that needs to be addressed by Capcom as well. And finally, there are issues with the mouse control. The game doesn't seem to be using raw mouse input, but rather emulating an analog stick with the mouse, which makes it feel like you're moving around in molasses, and that is less than ideal, to say the least. There's a partial workaround for the issue, which I'll link below. You'll need to fiddle with the INI file and tweak the mouse sensitivity setting there. You'll have to change the mouse sensitivity setting in the game itself. And in addition, you'll have to fiddle with your DPI to make it feel playable. So this is going to vary from person to person because, of course, everyone likes their mouse to be a different way. The problem with lowering my DPI for this tweak was that moving the mouse cursor around in the menus was extremely slow. So I ended up having to make another DPI profile for my mouse that I would switch to when going to the menu. I've gotten kind of used to it now. Yes, it is somewhat inconvenient, but for me it was still better than having to use the gamepad. I played around 25 hours with the gamepad, after which I switched to the mouse and keyboard. Now I don't have issues with playing the game with a gamepad, but for me at least I feel more comfortable playing with the mouse, and I feel that I have more control that way, especially when using ranged weapons. Another reason was also that hotkeys are available with the mouse and keyboard. Using the radial menus with the analog stick was 50-50 for me. You know, half the time you'd move onto an item and it wouldn't work. You'd have to hold a certain amount of time on an item before it activated. So switching to the keyboard, you have 4 groups of hotkeys, F1 through to F4, each of them having 8 hotkeys that you can set. Now, although this wasn't perfect, since having to navigate to a menu by pressing F1 through to F4 to get to your hotkeys and then pressing 1 to 8, it was still better for me than using the radial menu with the gamepad. But I actually ended up making macros on my mouse and keyboard for 2 of those groups so that I have 16 keys at a single button press, which was nice. At any rate, Capcom have said that they're aware of the complaints with the mouse issues and they are currently working on a fix, so I guess that's good news. I'm not sure how long that's going to take. However, they've remained pretty silent regarding the performance issues with the port, the issue with the textures and the reflections not working correctly, which was demonstrated in the Digital Foundry video. And now, of course, I don't expect an overnight miracle fix, but the game has been out for quite some time, and it would be nice if they were a little bit more vocal on what they were working on at the moment, at least to put people to ease. Most certainly they were aware of these issues since they've been widespread across Reddit and the various forums, so I'd be surprised if they weren't aware of these issues. However, despite the technical failings that are present in Monster Hunter World PC, they aren't enough to detract from what I think is really one of the most enjoyable games I've played in a very, very long time. And I would still highly recommend the game. I'll do a more detailed breakdown of the game and the systems along with my thoughts in my full review video and written review. Hopefully I can get that done in the next couple of days if work isn't too busy. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to click the bell icon if you guys want notifications when I release new videos. And if you enjoyed the video, or if you didn't, you know what to do. I've been Charling. Until next time.